Anyway, thank you for coming out this Sunday, taking time from your families and a busy day to be here with us. This Bennett Park has become a symbol now for us. Unfortunately, we have had to come here many times for different events that have occurred, tragedies that have occurred across the world, because as many of you know, this neighborhood welcomed many Jewish families during and after the war. And so it has a very important meaning to this particular part of the city. And it's very important for us that we continue in the tradition that this neighborhood has, which is one of tolerance and one that acknowledges our diversity, but also objects to hatred, to terrorism, to violence. And the last time we met at Fort Tryon Park, when a very racist white nationalist group, Europa, came to our neighborhood to spew their hate. And we came out in huge numbers that time. Many families and children and young people were there, and seniors and clergy and religious leaders from all faith and denominations were there. And so we once again are here to reject the violence perpetrated against people of faith in New Zealand. And we will continue to reject that. We will continue to reject any attitude that leads to that. There's been a sharp spike, 17% increase in attacks against Muslims in this past year in the United States. And we reject that with all our strength and say that we are not people that feel that differences are a problem. In fact, diversity is our strength. And so we're here to worship that and show our solidarity to the people of New Zealand in this very tragic moment. The United States has also gone through difficult times like these. France, places in Africa and Asia, in Europe and here in America have witnessed this kind of horror. So this is a worldwide problem. And yes, there must be gun control. We pray and we show solidarity, but we must also act. And there must be gun control. And I don't know what anybody has in their mind when they think that it's fine to walk around with a semi-automatic weapon in the streets, anywhere. Or even a handgun, because handguns take far too many lives in our cities, in our urban cities. And so yes, we must be tough on guns and violence, and we gotta have a united effort, concerted effort, to ensure that this madness stops. Estamos aquí de nuevo para enseñar la solidaridad con el pueblo de Nueva Zelandia en este tiempo de crisis, una tragedia. 50 personas perdieron su vida. 50 people now have lost their lives there. And the life of everybody there has changed, of course. Y estamos aquí para decirle que no creemos en la violencia. Realmente nosotros rechazamos con toda la fuerza de nuestro corazón la violencia, las armas de fuego que deben de ser eliminadas, armas automáticas en las calles nuestras, al igual que también armas que poseen personas que terminan en la muerte de otro ser humano. Nuestras diferencias son nuestra fuerza y por eso estamos aquí para enseñar solidaridad con nuestros hermanos musulmanes, quienes han visto un aumento de un 17% de violencia en contra de ellos aquí en los Estados Unidos en este último año. Así que estamos aquí en este parque que es simbólico para nuestra comunidad y le damos las gracias a todos ustedes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. So now we are going to hear from our state senator from this area, someone that for many years was the only Muslim member of the New York City Council, and I believe is still the only Muslim member of the New York State Senate. So our State Senator, Robert Jackson.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. And if you're not aware, that means peace be upon you. Give you greeting. So I'm just thankful that Adriano Espaillat, our Congress member, and others that have organized this vigil. I saw Liz Ritter putting up the posters this morning. Liz, thank you for your advocacy on behalf of our community. And thank everyone that's here to come together in peace and unity. The most important thing that we have to do is to don't understand what happened, but work to improve the situation, not only here in New York City, but around the world. As our Congress member said, you can look to various parts of the world and there's killing because someone is black, someone is white, someone is gay, someone is a Muslim, someone is a Jew, someone is a Christian. Hate is hate, and it knows no colors or barriers, but we need to promote peace and understanding and respect. When we do that, it's not about tolerance, because tolerance is not, in my opinion, the one where you respect and understand the differences, and as Adriano said, our diversity is our strength. So I'm here to be a part of this vigil, understanding that many of us are hurting from what we have witnessed on the news. You may have relatives that have been directly impacted, and as someone that has been directly impacted many years ago by a younger brother getting killed, it was through hate, because there's hate. When you kill someone, you have to be able to put that hate out forward. But I say to you that you never forget, and your life always changes when things like this happen. So let's come together with strength and unity on behalf of all of us, being brothers and sisters of our human race. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Robert. Muchas gracias, Robert. The news is always peppered with information about the discourse in the Middle East and about pitting one people against another people. And we think it's extremely important for members of every faith to come together in support of our Muslim brothers and sisters. And I would like to call three of our local rabbis up, Rabbi Jeffrey Gale, Rabbi Joseph Blau, and Rabbi Guy Austrian, to say a few words.
On behalf of Yeshiva University, where I've been working for the past 40 plus years, I want to express our sense of solidarity with the pain of the Muslims who went to pray and were killed by a hateful white nationalists. We understand tragically what it means for our people to have been killed for their beliefs. We still haven't recuperated from the terrorist murder in Pittsburgh. It's Jews, it's Muslims, the black church in the South, it's Christians, all different kinds of people, believers who have trusted in the sanctity and the sanctuary of their prayer hall, only to be viciously murdered, and we'll do whatever we can to promote harmony and peace throughout the world. Thank you.
I'm Rabbi Gale. I'm the rabbi of Hebrew Tabernacle right across the street. Very sad. Just last night, I spoke with my friend and colleague Imam Kanate, expressing my regret, my sadness, my sorrow, my consolation, and recognizing that only a few months ago he had phoned me after similar carnage took place in Pittsburgh. We seem to be comforting each other over tragedies, and we ask ourselves, when will this end? On Purim, we speak of Shushan as a walled city. In this country, we've had controversy over the wall. In Belfast, there is a wall. In Berlin, there used to be a wall. But will the day ever come when we break down walls and begin to build bridges? Thank you.
My name is Rabbi Guy Austrian of the Fort Tryon Jewish Center here in this neighborhood. Ha'ela v'rachaman, compassionate one, source of compassion. Tachonin la'adam dat u'melemenet le'onosh bina. You are the source of understanding. You help us human beings to expand our understanding, our mind, our heart, our spirit. Help us now to be more open, to be larger than ourselves, to realize that you have made us different so that we can appreciate our essential oneness. Keep us far, far from the sins of ignorance, of hatred, of bigotry, of division. Keep us close to you. Keep us close to one another, to our connection. Help us to exercise our spiritual muscles and our physical muscles, which we are going to need more and more in these times, to text one another, to call one another, to walk to one another with our feet, to talk to one another face to face. And may we see in the face of the other your own face, God. Baruch atah Hashem, chonen lanu dat. Blessed are you, source of understanding.
Thank you so much to Rabbi Blau, Rabbi Gale, and Rabbi Austrian. Now we want to hear from the Advocacy Director of the Yemeni American Merchants Association, Mr. Ayed Al-Gabali.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace and blessings to you all. Today, we gather to send our sincere and deepest condolences to the victims and the people of New Zealand for the massacre by a terrorist of a white supremacy. Our hearts and souls are shattered to pieces from this massacre. We must stand together through thick and thin against all type of hate and terrorism and racism. Our unity will defeat those who wish us harm, all people of us group as one unity. Our unity is a message of love, respect, and compassion for one another. Our unity is what's needed, especially during these dark times. Our unity is what defines humanity. In order to defeat white supremacy, or hate, or racism, or terrorism, we need to call it as it is. We need to acknowledge it and call it out. It is time that we come together. It is time that we love and respect one another. It is time that we overcome our differences and start building bridges of love, peace, and humanity. Yesterday, as I was skimming through the manifesto of this evil animal, and I was shocked to see that the hate and ideology of white supremacy. What hurts the most is to see our president's name on the manifesto being embraced for his stance on white supremacy and anti-immigration. Let's not forget a president who implemented a Muslim ban on nationals from majority Muslim countries such as Yemen, Somalia, Libya, and Syria. A ban that separates us from our loved ones. So let's repeal the Muslim ban together, hand by hand. Let's live up to to the sake of our American values. Lastly, I call on all of you and all elected officials and public figures across the country and the world to watch what you say. Be careful for your words that come out of your mouth. You are in a position of leadership, so I urge you to live up to that leadership as we all look up to you. May God bless you and your families, and may God bless, may the victims rest in peace. Thank you all.
Thank you so much again. Thank you. So we're now going to hear from one of our neighbors from a few blocks away from here, former chair of Community Board 12, the first Muslim male to be elected to the judiciary in the state of New York, Shah Ali from the New York Civil Court.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. You know, I thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me a few moments to speak. When I ran for judgeship, and I'm speaking here as a community member, it dawned on me that being Muslim in this country was hard, that we were under attack. I never meant literally under attack. I never thought literally that someone would open fire and murder 50 people as they worshiped. But as Senator Jackson mentioned, that we shouldn't spend this time trying to comprehend a senseless act where there is no explanation. So the question for me as a Muslim community member is, what do we do now? And I want to thank the congressmen and all the elected officials and community members, because we turned this into a positive act. We can't undo, as much as we all want to, undo the senseless hatred, but we can make it positive. As our great former First Lady Michelle Obama said, when they go low, and I can't think of anything lower than what happened here or in Pittsburgh or in South Carolina, but when they go low, where do we go? High. High, and high means participation. High means supporting ourselves. Before I was a judge, I was community board chair, and I gotta tell you, the greatest support we got from this vibrant community was our Jewish brothers and sisters, Yeshiva University, everyone. So this is a good example. I want all members, everyone here, to go high. Let's figure out what we need to do. Speak to our congressmember to get those guns off the streets, to talk about mental health, to talk about hatred, to show unity. If everyone saw the love here, we would abolish hate. They need to come to Washington Heights and Inwood to see how love really translates. Look around you. We're not all the same, and that's what makes us beautiful. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Shah. And thank you, the elected officials are here. This is, as Shah said, this is a special neighborhood. It's my neighborhood. My kids grew up in this neighborhood. My mom still lives here. And so this is a special neighborhood that has shown love and respect for people from all over the world. From all over the world. And we're grateful to be here. You know, we celebrated our accomplishment, but we also come together when there's a tragedy. Last time, as I said earlier, we went to Fort Tryon Park, and you know, we were surveilled by ICE when we were there. The children that were there were young people that helped move the crowd around in the park, and many families were there with their children, their loved ones, and members from the church were there, and the temples were there, and we were being surveilled at the same time when we were doing this. That's not America. That has to change. And so we're here with some of the other elected officials as well, and we want to welcome our board president, Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much, Congressman. And silver linings are hard to come by, but I will tell you, as somebody who represents the entire borough, that this incredible community, Washington Heights, maybe it's because of the hills and the valleys, you come together more than any other community in the borough of Manhattan, and I want to congratulate you over and over again. So we know that 49 worshippers were killed in New Zealand in the mosque. We know that 49 worshippers were killed there. We know that 11 people died in Pittsburgh, 9 people in a black church in South Carolina, 26 people in a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. The list goes on and on. We know there's too much hate, too much violence, and too many deaths. It's 2019, and our children are inheriting a world that is racked by violence and hate. However, we all know that no words can bring loved ones back, erase this heartache, or lift the weight of fear. We can stand defiant. We can fight to ban the assault weapons and guns in general, as the Congressman has indicated. We can face down hate. We can face down white supremacy and fear, because we are solidly together. We are a community, and we understand what love is. We know that this Israelia is rearing its ugly head again, from an attack on a worker at one of our own airports, to the horrific attack on the mosque in Quebec City, to the horrible policies being pushed by Number 45, and now this. So whether the haters target Muslims or Jews or people of color or immigrants or the LGBT community, in the end, hate groups are hate groups, and white supremacy is white supremacy. They're all selling the same snake oil. But we know how infectious it is and where it leads. And we know we cannot stand by while they spread their poison. This is our great city in New York. Whether we're black, white, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, or atheist, we are all welcome. We will not let the bigots take that from us. So just like this amazing crowd in the hills and the valleys, we stand with New York's Muslim community, the Jewish community. And what's also great is that in the last week, as in the previous times, the Jews and the Muslim community and everyone else has stood together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. And now we're going to hear from Assemblywoman Carmen de la Rosa.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman, for bringing us together as usual. Rabbis, thank you for being here. Our Muslim brothers and sisters, thank you for joining us. You know, if we're really, really quiet, we can hear the kids play. We can hear them laugh. And in that innocence is the purity of love. And that is what we need to focus on, love. Because the only way to combat that hate that makes no sense and that causes senseless tragedies is through love. And as we've been here before, Bennett Park has now become a symbol of all the tragedies that are happening around the world. But for us, the residents of this community, it's become a symbol of unity and of strength and of fight and of grit, to say that we will not be silenced by the hate that we see around the world, and that we will come together and continue to draw strength from what we see. Today, I'm proud as always, but even more proud to be part of this community, a community that, as our congressman said, has welcomed us all. You know, if we're fighting to protect immigrant communities, those children that are separated at the border, those children that are being caged right now, when we're fighting to make sure that anti-Semitic acts are denounced, that this senseless tragedy is denounced, we're doing that because we believe in future generations. We believe in a world where our love is going to be the guiding light. And so I know that our words cannot bring back the lives and the souls of those lost, but our words can begin to make change for those who think that they can get away with their racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Islamic rhetoric and to think that they're going to divide our communities. Today we are standing here as a symbol that we will not be divided, that we will choose to love one another, to take care of one another in the face of hate. So I want to thank all our neighbors for coming out. I want to thank you for continuing to give us inspiration to go back to Washington, to go back to City Hall, to go back to Albany, and continue to fight to make sure that guns are off the street, to make sure, as Shah said, that mental health is a priority. You know, we've been sometimes at the receiving end of hate, but we also have to understand that underneath that hate, oftentimes mental health is something that is lacking in our communities. And we need to begin to make an impact there. I'm on the Mental Health Committee in the Assembly, and I often talk about mental health and what that means in our communities. And so I just want to say that I send my condolences to those families that have lost their loved ones. And I've been reading about this particular community, which served as a place for solace for the children who were survivors of the Parkland shooting. Think about that. When the Parkland shooting happened in Florida, these children went to New Zealand to find solace. And hate has reared its ugly head there now too. And so we stand with those communities. We stand with New Zealand to say that we are mourning this loss with you and that we will not forget those lost. Their loss will not be in vain. We'll continue to stand up and denounce hate and racism and bigotry at every turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblyman Al Taylor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My first is I pastor a church, and I want to tell you all that I am so encouraged right now by who I see and what I see out here today, because that's what's going to impact and bring effective change. Listening to the kids play in the background, that's our change. The prophet said this, he said, seek the peace of the city, because as the city prospers, so shall I. In these communities, as diverse as they are, that was Prophet Jeremiah, as diverse as this community is, and where our kids will end up on this global world in which we live in, only God knows. So they are going to take with them this community, these occasions. As sad as they are, there is joy in the midst of this, because tomorrow will never be the same based on what we know today. So I stand with my brothers and my sisters that are out here today, and we will find encouragement. And I think someone said we don't have the answers, and sometimes they're not fast enough, and sometimes they're not what we want, but there is a God. There is a God, and whomever and however you address him, there is, or her, as she said over here, there is a God. And that's the only trust that I can place myself right now in hope and encouragement that tomorrow will be better, because in this community, it doesn't stand a chance to survive. And all we want to do is become infectious to the rest of the city. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend. Councilmember Levine.
Thank you so much, Congressmember. What a beautiful and uplifting gathering this has been. This is just what I needed today. I remember when I was hearing the news come in, the early reports of this massacre in New Zealand, 49 fatalities, and that number sounded familiar to me. It took me a moment to remember that that was the same number of people who were massacred in the Orlando nightclub, which is just one small symbol of the connectedness of all of these tragedies that are victims of this cancerous form of hatred that is metastasized globally around the world. The number of fatalities in New Zealand has now risen. It's 50. It's people as young as 21, as old as 72. It's engineers and accountants and teachers. It's immigrants to New Zealand from half a dozen countries throughout Asia and the Middle East, Bangladesh and India, Egypt, people who had been in the country for decades and some who had just arrived. That is the kind of congregation that you could find in many mosques in New York City. Even a mosque here in Washington Heights, Masjid Rahman on 175th Street. And I think it's part of why we have felt so connected and personally impacted by this tragedy, as if it were our own. The same hatred that destroyed those lives in New Zealand is the hatred that murdered in an African American church in Charlotte, the hatred that massacred 13 Jews at prayer in Pittsburgh, the hatred that marched in Charlottesville. It's the same hatred, and we have to call it by its name. It is white nationalism. It's white supremacism. Since 9/11, 70% of the violent extremist attacks in America have been committed by white nationalists. And we have a president who refused to condemn it in anything but the most tepid of terms. A president who, even in the days since this massacre in New Zealand, has returned to the same tired, hateful rhetoric, demonizing people who are seeking refuge in this country. Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinta Ardern, what a model of leadership, embracing with all her heart the Muslim communities of that country and denouncing the racism that has inflicted so much harm there. What I would give for a leader with just an ounce of that humanity. And some of you saw that she's already announced they're going to ban assault weapons. in that country. How great it must be to live in a country that's not in the grip of the NRA. That's what we can do here. So I know this tragedy is on the other side of the world, but I think all of us have a role in healing the wounds in this society and societies everywhere, in our daily actions, in the way we reach out to people who are different from us, who practice another faith or speak another language or look differently, pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zone to embrace, to love, to understand. We can all do that. And it's what Washington Heights does best. As the borough president said, we have done this again and again and again. It's why I am so proud to be from this community. And I know that we are going to continue to be a source of love and tolerance for this city. Brevemente en español, el mismo odio que mató en Nueva Zelandia, el mismo racismo, el mismo antisemitismo, el mismo homofobia, islamofobia, también es el mismo odio que mató en una iglesia afroamericana en Carolina del Sur, en una sinagoga en Pittsburgh, el mismo odio que desfiló en las calles de Charlottesville. Y nosotros aquí venimos unidos a condenar, a rechazar por completo ese odio. Aquí venimos unidos, latinos, judíos, musulmanes, afroamericanos, a decir, ya basta, ya basta. Aquí en Washington Heights, rechazamos ese odio hoy para siempre. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Before we hear from our last speaker, I also want to acknowledge a representative from Councilman Idanis Rodriguez's office, and we have with us a lady. Don't be misfooled by her height. Maybe by her heels, yes. But you know, she's got the moral standing and the fortitude and the strength, I think, to speak to many of us in this community, because she has been here for so long and has been a leader, a civic leader, and a community leader, Maria Luna.
Thank you, Congressman. I am really short. I'm listening to everything that has been said here, and I look back as a Roman Catholic. The persecution to our brothers and sisters all around the world, not just Muslim, not just Jewish, no any other religion deserve the crime that was perpetrated in New Zealand. And I'm here on Solidarity. Many things have been said, but we also have to be responsible for the words that are coming out from those leaders that we have in different places, not just on the White House, but there are other places around the world that's promoting this type of crime. Hate and opposite to love is something that we need to defeat. So I'm here in solidarity with all of you. Many things that I wish that we could accomplish as human beings, because it wasn't just the Muslims that were attacked, it was the entire human race. We were impacted by the news and the scene that what we saw on television. It was something that we need not to see again. So God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. And if there's anything that we take away from this gathering here today is, if you see a Muslim brother in one of the local grocery stores, tell him you love him. Tell him that you care, that you're hurt too. You know, just like we celebrated St. Patty's Day yesterday, we were all Irish. You know, I remember as a young man here in New York City celebrating St. Patty's Day, and we felt Irish that day. And I remember coming down Cabrini Boulevard as a young boy with my brother skating, and I saw the first member of the Jewish community. And I went back home and I asked my mom, and she said, those are good people. And she explained to me, right? And you know what? 10 years later, we were living right there in Cabrini Boulevard, right next to many of the members of that community. So say thank you. It's common civility. Watch your words. Words matter. You can make somebody laugh or you can make somebody cry. You know, words have an impact. You got to watch what you say. You have to be sensitive to differences, right? And be able to understand that somebody doesn't have to be exactly like you. They're also good people. And so this is a great neighborhood with that tradition. You know, I remember the McCormicks in my building on 153rd Street, an elderly Irish couple who befriended us and taught us to speak English. That's what this neighborhood is about. So when you see a Muslim grocery store owner, cab driver, or just a mom taking her kid to school, tell them that you're sorry for what happened in New Zealand. Touch them in the shoulder and say, we're sorry, you know, we love you too, and we want you to be to know that we're really sorry for this and we're going to fight together. That's one thing that we take away from this. The other matter is guns. You know, guns. You know, these semi-automatic weapons, machine guns on the street. Incredible. It is mind-boggling that this still exists in America. But even handguns, you know, most young men of color are killed on NYCHA housing with handguns that make their way up from the southern state. We gotta stop this madness and ban guns. Police officer can have a gun. You know, a member of the Army or the Navy, maybe, but not what does a person do with a semi-automatic weapon in their home? Mind-boggling. Let's push back together on this. Together, let's push back and make it happen. And so I thank you all. We have a representative also for Scott Stringer's office. And why don't we hold hands right now and just have a moment of silence in the memory of all the folks that lost their lives in New Zealand. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Congressman Espaillat, for bringing us together. Thank you all the groups that helped put this together. Act Theater Company, People's Theater Project, Northern Manhattan.